The time is 1:15. Here is the news edited by Romesh Piris, read by Victor Raj. Here are the headlines of the local news. Sri Lanka apprises the EU of measures to review the Prevention of Terrorism Act and affirms commitment to protect human rights. Over 71 vaccination clinics are in operation across the country today. COVID-19 death toll surpasses 13,000 in Sri Lanka. The Indian Foreign Secretary visits the Temple of the Sacred Tooth Relic in Kandy to begin his visit to Sri Lanka. The Environment Minister to attend the 4th Asia-Pacific Ministerial Environment Forum in South Korea. India and Sri Lanka will conduct a 12-day mega military exercise with a focus on enhancing counter-terror cooperation. International news. Global COVID-19 deaths hit 5 million as Delta variant sweeps the world. Sports news. Football 2021 SAF Championship. The 5-team tournament will be staged at the National Football Stadium in Malé, Maldives. Local news in detail. Sri Lanka updates the European Union on the action in progress to review the Prevention of Terrorism Act and reiterated commitment to bring the draconian law in line with international standards when the 5th Working Group on Governance, Rule of Law and Human Rights met in Colombo on 29 September 2021. The working group meeting took place in the context of regular bilateral exchanges between the European Union and Sri Lanka. During the one-day meeting held in a cordial and open atmosphere, the two partners reaffirmed their commitment to good governance, adherence to the rule of law, and the protection of human rights. A joint press release issued following the meeting said they discussed common interests pertaining to the protection and promotion of fundamental rights and freedoms, and agree to continue cooperation on issues of relevance. The expeditious vaccination drive conducted by the Ministry of Health is in operation today. Over 71 vaccination clinics are in operation across the country. For more details on the vaccination clinics operating in local areas and the type of vaccination and vaccines administered can be obtained from the official website of the Health Ministry, www.health.gov.lk. Meanwhile, nearly 800,000 doses of Pfizer-BioNTech vaccines arrived in Sri Lanka this week to continue the fight against COVID-19. These safe and effective vaccines donated by the United States and delivered via COVAX will protect lives and increase the COVID-19 vaccination coverage in Sri Lanka. This delivery brings the total number of vaccines donated by the United States to Sri Lanka to nearly 2.4 million. The epidemiology unit of the Health Ministry stated that the daily total of the new COVID-19 cases moved to 858 yesterday as 259 more people were tested positive for the virus. According to the Government Information Department, 855 of the new cases were associated with the Nivea cluster. The remaining 3 were identified as arrivals from foreign countries. This brings the tally to coronavirus infections confirmed in the country so far to 519,633. More than 47,900 active cases are currently under medical care at hospitals, treatment centers, and homes. Total recoveries from the virus infection reached 458,646 early today as 561 more patients were discharged from medical care upon returning to health. Meanwhile, Sri Lanka registered 55 new COVID-related fatalities confirmed by the Director General of the Health Services. The new development pushed the official death toll to 13,019. The Foreign Secretary of India, Sri Harsh Vardhan Shringla, visited the Temple of the Sacred Tooth Relic this morning to commence his visit to Sri Lanka. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs announced that the Indian Foreign Secretary arrived in the country following an invitation extended by Sri Lanka's Foreign Secretary, Admiral Professor Jayanath Columbage. The Indian Foreign Secretary is due to meet with the President, Prime Minister, Foreign Minister and Minister of Finance during his visit to review the bilateral ties between India and Sri Lanka. According to the Foreign Ministry, the Indian Foreign Secretary is also scheduled to tour Kandy, Trincomalee and Jaffna. This news comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.
Sri Lanka Insurance, like a father, like a mother.
More local news. India and Sri Lanka will conduct a 12-day mega military exercise from Monday with a focus on enhancing counter-terror cooperation. The 8th edition of the Mitra Shakti exercise will be conducted at the Combat Training School in Ampara from Monday to the 15th of October. The Defence Ministry of India said the aim of the exercise is to promote close relations between armies of both countries and enhance interoperable and sharing best practices in counter-insurgency and counter-terrorism operations. The minister said an all-arms contingent of 120 personnel of the Indian Army will participate in the exercise along with the battalion strength contingent of Sri Lankan Army. The first New Zealand High Commissioner to Sri Lanka, Michael Appleton, and the Deputy High Commissioner Andrew Traveller met with the State Minister of Foreign Employment Promotion and Market Diversification, Priyankara Jayaratne, at the Ministry Office in Narayanpeta recently. The High Commission of New Zealand was established in Sri Lanka on August 10th this year, and the meeting with the first resident New Zealand High Commissioner to Sri Lanka, Michael Appleton, took place at the invitation of State Minister Jayaratne. The International Centre for Migration Policy Development in New Zealand has already agreed to provide full financial support to fully upgrade a selected migration resources centre of the Bureau of the Foreign Employment. The High Commissioner agreed to specially consider providing employment opportunities to Sri Lankan youth in the fields of agriculture and livestock in his country and to work as trainees so that they can obtain the prerequisite training required for the professional employment. Sri Lanka Navy has seized another 2 consignments of smuggled dried turmeric weighing over 1,334 kilograms during the special operations carried out in seas of the Gurunagar Jaffna and in the beach area of Kudava Kalpitia. The operations also made way to the apprehension of 3 suspects involved in those rackets. Accordingly, the Navy was able to take hold of 1,334 kilograms and 800 grams of dried turmeric during operations carried out in Jaffna and Kalpitia areas yesterday. Sri Lankan singer Yohani sustained a minor injury while performing in India. The singer, who was in India on her first tour following the success of the song Manike Mage Hite, had knocked her face on a guitar while performing on stage. She went on to say that the show must go on despite the minor injury. Manike Mage Hite by Yohani and Satishan is currently in the top 10 of the global charts. The Sri Lankan song is at number 7 on the YouTube global charts this week. The song was at number 6 last week. Yohani has been exclusively signed as a Wingman India artist and will be managed by Sonu Lakwani in India. That ends local news.
Just as love and freedom are important to a child, so too is knowledge. Encouraging their pursuit of knowledge is our most important responsibility as parents.
Sri Lanka Insurance Minimuthu Education Plans ensure a secure future for your child with a higher education fund, comprehensive protection and a range of additional covers. Minimuthu Education Plans for children who dare to dream. Sri Lanka Insurance, like a father, like a mother.
A mother knows the pain of each member of the family. Siddhalepa, the trusted relief for aches and pains.
An effective therapy for relief from cold, sneezing, flu, headaches, swelling due to toothaches, rheumatic, discomforts, and muscular aches and pains. Siddhalepa, the Vedha Mahatmya in every home.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedha Mahatmya.
The Environment Minister Mahinda Amaravira and the Ministry Secretary Dr. Anil Jayasinghe left for South Korea at the invitation of the Government of Republic of South Korea. The ministry said that the 4th Asia-Pacific Environment Ministerial and Environmental Institutions meeting of the United States Environment Program will be held in Suwon City, South Korea, on October 6th and 7th. The Minister and the Secretary will also participate in a discussion on international cooperation for the control and development of global carbon emissions as well as several foreign aid projects in the Republic of Korea on October 5th. Ministers from 47 countries will participate in the Environment Ministers' Conference. The agenda of our country is environmental action for sustainable development in the Asia-Pacific region. That ends main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedha Mahatmya.
Brush your teeth twice a day for healthy teeth and gums. Supiriviki and Kakulu, your trusted brands in oral care for many years.
Supiriviki Ayurvedic Toothpaste for adults. Kakulu Ayurvedic Toothpaste for kids. 9 Ayurvedic ingredients of Supiriviki will protect your teeth and strengthen your gums. Supiriviki and Kakulu, products from Siddhalepa.
And now in Watchlight.
The prison spokesman Commissioner Chandana Ekanayaka says visiting inmates will be allowed again at all prisons from tomorrow. The decision came after the government lifted the island-wide quarantine curfew on Friday. Visitors are urged to adhere to the health guidelines introduced by the government when arriving at prisons, as the pandemic situation is yet to be eradicated. Further, the prisons department encouraged them to use the e-visit procedure as much as possible. That ends Watchlight.
World News.
World News headlines first. Global COVID-19 deaths hit 5 million as Delta variant sweeps the world. The Pakistan Prime Minister says the US sooner or later must recognize the Taliban. Tens of thousands of women march for abortion rights in the US. World News in detail. Worldwide deaths related to COVID-19 surpassed 5 million on Friday, according to Reuters tally, with unvaccinated people particularly exposed to the variant Delta strain. The variant has exposed the wide disparities in vaccination rates between rich and poor nations and the upshot of vaccine hesitancy in some Western nations. More than half of all global deaths reported on a 7-day average were in the United States, Russia, Brazil, Mexico and India. According to Reuters analysis, it took just over a year for the COVID-19 death toll to hit 2.5 million. The next 2.5 million deaths were recorded in just under 8 months. Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan has said the United States government will sooner or later have to recognize the Taliban, which now rules Afghanistan. In a televised interview with the Turkish state-affiliated TRT World, Khan said on Saturday the US is in a state of shock and confusion after the Taliban takeover of Afghanistan on August 15th. Khan also stated that the U.S. public is currently looking for a scapegoat and unfairly targeting U.S. President Joe Biden. Tens of thousands of women are marched across cities in the United States to protest increasing restrictions on abortion. The 660 demonstrations around the U.S. on Saturday, including on the steps of the Supreme Court in Washington, D.C., were largely sparked by a Texas law that banned abortions after about 6 weeks of pregnancy. The measure, which went into effect last month, is the most restrictive in the country. Some wore T-shirts reading simply 1973, a reference to the landmark Roe v. Wade decision which made abortion legal for generations of the American women. To wrap up the world news, let's take a look at the headlines once again. Global COVID-19 deaths hit 5 million as Delta variant sweeps the world. The Pakistan Prime Minister says the US sooner or later must recognize the Taliban. Tens of thousands of women march for abortion rights in the US. That ends world news.
And now in development news.
The Ministry of Fisheries says the Vennapur Vellamankara Fisher Harbour, which is being constructed as the largest fishing harbour in Sri Lanka, is expected to be opened to the public next month. The construction of this harbour, which is the largest project in the Sri Lankan fisheries sector, will cost nearly 2.5 billion rupees. The fishing harbour, with a large breakwater, comprises all the facilities of an fishing harbour, as well as a harbour managers and staff hotels, restaurants and a coast guard unit. That ends development news.
Sports news.
The All India Football Federation announced that the Indian football team will begin its 2021 South Asian Football Federation Championship campaign today against Bangladesh. Matches against Sri Lanka on October 6th, Nepal October 8th and host Maldives October 11th will follow as per the 2021 SAF Championship schedule. The 5-team tournament will be staged at the National Football Stadium in Male, Maldives from today. After the round-robin group stage, the two highest-placed teams will proceed to the final, which will be played on October 13th.
Cash through NSB globally and win wonderful gifts locally. Will you be the lucky winner of the NSB Golden Jubilee? 50 gold sovereigns for the top prize winner of the NSB Golden Jubilee. Scooters for the 10 second prize winners. iPhones for the 10 third prize winners. Mountain bikes for the 29 fourth prize winners. From October 1st, 2021 to September 30th, 2022. Remit a minimum of $100 or an equivalent amount in any foreign currency through NSB U Trust for 6 months consecutively. Send more money and increase the chances of winning.
This was news, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
The Commercial Bank of Ceylon has embarked on an initiative to transform the way it supports micro and entrepreneurs using the Diru Shakti Loans Program. The bank also recently donated a set of cooler boxes in the collaboration with its Mulliyavalli branch. The coolers help preserve the fisheries of the products and are essential in the safe transportation of the dairy products. Following these measures, community members are now able to distribute milk to distant shops, while curd, ghee, milk, toffee and yogurt products from the milk is supplied to wholesale outlets in Kilinochchi and Vavuniya. That ends business news.
This was news, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Cash through NSB globally and win wonderful gifts locally. Will you be the lucky winner of the NSB Golden Jubilee? 50 gold sovereigns for the top prize winner of the NSB Golden Jubilee. Scooters for the 10 second prize winners. iPhones for the 10 third prize winners. Mountain bikes for the 29 fourth prize winners.
Moving on to economic news, the World Bank's Board of Executive Directors have approved $500 million in financing for Sri Lanka to provide safe, climate-resilient roads to connect agricultural supply chains through the Inclusive Connectivity and Development Project. This project is expected to benefit around 16 million people living in rural communities in selected districts of Sri Lanka. This project is part of the development program to improve 100,000 kilometers of rural roads, a key initiative under the government's National Development Strategy. This project will be implemented by the Minister of Highways, and the National Steering Committee will be established to oversee the project. The variable spread loan has been final maturity of 28 years, including a grace period of 10 years. That ends economic news. Moving on to weather report. The Department of Meteorology forecasts several spells of showers to occur at times in the western, Sabaragamuwa and northwestern provinces and in the Galle and Mathura districts. Showers or thundershowers will occur at several places elsewhere, particularly during the afternoon or night. Fairly heavy showers above 75 mm can be expected at some places in the northern, north-central, eastern and Uva provinces. The general public is kindly requested to take adequate precautions to minimize damages caused by temporary localized strong winds and lightning during thundershowers. Sea areas. Showers or thundershowers will occur at several places in the sea areas around the island. Winds will be northwesterly in the sea areas extending from Puttalam to Hambantota via Colombo and Galle, and variable winds in the other sea areas around the island. That ends weather report. To wrap up the afternoon news on Radio Sri Lanka, let's take a look at the headlines once again. Sri Lanka prizes the EU of measures to review the Prevention of Terrorism Act and affirms commitment to protect human rights. Over 71 vaccination clinics are in operation across the country today. COVID-19 death toll surpasses 13,000 in Sri Lanka. The Indian Foreign Secretary visits the Temple of the Sacred Tooth Relic in Kandy to begin his visit to Sri Lanka. The Environment Minister to attend the South Asia Pacific Ministerial and Environment Forum in South Korea. India and Sri Lanka will conduct a 12-day mega military exercise with a focus on enhancing counter-terror cooperation. International news. Global COVID-19 deaths hit 5 million as Delta variant sweeps the world. Sports news. Football 2021 SAF Championship. The 5-team tournament will be staged at the National Football Stadium in Malé, Maldives. That ends the afternoon news broadcast on Radio Sri Lanka.